Hello, friends. We are live from my living room. We're going to try to post this. If you guys don't know Gail, she's my sweet friend and mentor, and I say I have a Gail button anytime that I need her.
She does.
So,
she does.
Yay! Jessica, we wish you were here with us. And my wild and crazy hair.
So
oh man, I can't see myself.
Mine too. Uh-oh.
I can't see myself.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess
different having it horizontal.
I guess that doesn't really matter. I don't need to see myself. Oh wait, they can't. You can't see me. That's not fair. All right, maybe we'll have to be closer.
Okay. Let me move over.
Is that too close? I don't know.
No, this is good.
Maybe
She
it
loves
needs
your
to be
hair.
further. Oh, thanks, friends. Okay, so let's get this video.
That's awesome.
How about this? You guys can't see me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's going to be about Gail today. Okay. We can see both of you. Okay.
Awesome.
You guys can see me. It's not about me. Why am I worried about me? Okay. I'm used to it being the full me. Okay, guys, welcome. I'm Elizabeth Ensor, and I'm here with Gail Anderson. And of course, I share her scopes a lot, so you guys are familiar with her. But we were chatting, was that last week?
Yes.
About discipling your kids, and in the mentorship dinner that Gail had hosted a couple months ago, she talked about one-on-one time, and I said, would you do a scope about, everyone loves your scopes.
Thank you.
Ladies, swipe to the right and share with your followers. Hey, Kirby. Everyone's jumping on, and give us lots of hearts, please. So in her mentorship for moms, the dinner that I hosted, she talked about pulling your kids aside like once a week, no matter their age, and giving them a little bit of disciple time, which I absolutely love. And this is something that I'm not doing. So I'm going to start implementing this summer. And Sullivan's 3 and Brooklyn just turned 8. So I am so excited. We're going to give you ideas on things that Gail did, things that you can do now in the modern 2016 that she didn't have. But the whole point is that you want to create a disciple.
That's right. A follower. Hopefully you're going to have time to be able to explain to them the way you live, the basis for making decisions. I mean, it's not that you want to open your child's head and pour this stuff in, so you're going to disciple them using other methods, but just so that they will make decisions similar to what you did, so they understand why and have the basis for it. So
I love that. Are you guys so excited? I think the fun part about this, we were just talking about it, is that this is quality time with your kids that is like no other. You're never going to get this back. You're never going to have your kids at this age, at this time, dealing with the stuff they're dealing with. So I was sharing with Gail, Sully, he's been raising his voice a lot when he gets mad. So that's just something I want to talk about. I want to go to the Bible and talk about Bible stories, talk about things that other people deal with, and talk about our voice and the way we talk to people, because that's something a 3-year-old can understand. Yeah. And then with Brooks, what did I say? Oh, being a hard worker. That's just something I really want to focus on. In his chores, when I ask him to do something, I feel like I'm getting a little pushback that I haven't ever had. And so instead of saying, stop arguing with me or all this stuff, I want to go the opposite way and disciple.
And show him the benefits of working hard and how the Bible tells us.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got some notes. Of course we have notes. Of course we do. That's the only way we periscope, because otherwise we're just wasting your time. So tell me a little bit about how you started discipling your kids one-on-one.
Well, basically when I started, as babies, I would just quote scriptures over. And I shared that last week when I scoped it. I had this set of 10 scriptures that I just had committed to memory, and I would just quote them over my baby. But then, of course, as you're getting into the toddler age, then you want to be able to sit down and start reading stories or talking about scriptures, and very short times. But, just being able to have that time with them where you're talking about some things that are happening in their life or that they're doing, right or wrong. And you can actually point to a story that shows a person who's doing this in the correct way, or maybe even not the correct way. Mm-hmm. And, their understanding, of course, will grow as they get into preschool, kindergarten. And you can go over some of the same things.
Yes.
And I love the list of topics that I shared last week. A lot of these came from the book Proverbs for Parenting.
Proverbs for Parenting.
And if you look at that book, you will see all these topics of things that you may want to address with your kids at different times as they're growing up.
So give us a couple. What are some things people...
Okay, diligence, you're talking about with Brooks. Proverbs 10:4, the hand of the diligent makes rich. I don't have loudness on here for Sully, but self-control.
Self-control.
A hot-tempered man stirs up strife, but a patient man calms a quarrel. And I love as they're starting to get into like the elementary stage and starting to deal with friends, how they're going to see some of these issues in their friends. And hopefully you're able to discuss those with them and say, okay, what did you think of that when he did that? Did you think that was good or bad?
That's great.
And you can help feed him a little bit or reinforce the way he should be deciding to go.
I love that. So a couple things that you can do when you're creating discipleship time for your child is decide, do you want to go through a book together? Do you want to talk about a character trait? What's right for you? And that's really the goal, is that we're just going to give you ideas and prompts. And if you've never done this before, then just start really simple. Maybe just start with a word you want to go over, or pick a book.
I love the books. I mean, with preschoolers, I love going over the Berenstain Bear books, which are actually the Living Lights series or whatever. They were written by the son of Stan and Jan Berenstain.
Which I didn't even know these existed. So there's the son of the Berenstain Bear couple. They wrote Christian character-based that teach stories.
And I have lists of different books you can use for different ages, but here's a whole bunch of the Berenstain Bears.
Oh, this
People
is awesome.
in Need, Say Their Prayers, The Forgiving Tree, God Made You Special, A Job Well Done. So all these are things that you can read the book to them and talk about at the end. That is discipleship.
I love that.
Right there.
That's really easy. We can all read a book, especially a Berenstain Bear book.
Exactly.
And talk about it. Or if your kids are old enough, they can read it.
Yes,
And
definitely.
Sometimes this is what Brooks and I do. If it's a real long book, he reads the left and I read the
Yes,
right. So
I love
he
it.
gets a little break, I get a little break, and my voice isn't hoarse by the end of it. But we're both reading, and then it keeps us participating, together. But the really great part is, and this is kind of like a Charlotte Mason type of idea, is a living book, a book that you're a part of and you're experiencing,
Yes.
then you talk about it together. So whether you're a homeschool mom or not, it doesn't really matter. You may be familiar with that idea, but do experiencing that book together.
And you may have more situations if your kids are away at school. They may come home and start talking about situations that they were in on the playground. That is prime stuff that you can sit down and talk about in your discipleship time, which is great because you don't just want to teach them, open their brains, pour this stuff in. You want examples, either from books, real life, siblings, extended family. I mean, these.
Sorry,
these
we're missing
are
your
real
comments.
life.
Hopefully, you're not commenting. If we miss any of your questions, go on Instagram put picture of us, and you can ask those questions. But we're talking about real life stuff. So, what about this summer? Let's talk about ideas for kids are out of school. Where can you find the list?
I actually put my email here. If you email me, I will send you that list.
I'll bring
Because
that up
I
closer.
do feel like it does help you to be able to have access to those books. I mean, that at least is, I've done that much work, and you guys can go from there. There's so many other things that you can use, and you're going to find a million other things to use. But this gets you started. It gives you a platform to begin. And once you get into it, you'll have so much fun. You'll just really, really enjoy it. But we have had, I think the biggest time that this was crucial for me was when my kids were in high school. That was a crazy time, a time when they're seeing their age mates doing different things, making decisions, doing activities, dating, different stuff like that. And, my base at that time was, okay, I understand your friends are doing that. Are these the guys who you want to be like later in life? Are you going the same place that they are going? Maybe not. Okay, then that might affect the decisions that you're making in these situations. And how do you feel about that? Is this where you want to go? What are the things you need to do to get where you want to go in life, to where God wants you to be? Is this the path that you should be on? I found it was really easy for me when my kids were making wrong decisions to just spout off. And that is not the right thing to do. You need to sit down, think about it, Think about how to respond, not just quickly retort when they say, I'm going to get a tattoo. Think about a way that you can bring this to their attention or start to study it so that they can make decisions more like what you would.
And one thing that I saw, I was a homeschooler growing up, and my parents, they saw a lot of really, really extreme parenting. And I think one of the great things that they did was they kept such a balance. And I think that's really what we're trying to encourage you to do, is that when you create that relationship, that discipleship time, and you create that balance, that you don't have to go extreme parenting, that every kid gets the same rule, every kid gets the same type of questions, the same type of discipleship time. Wow. The parents that I saw that were the least successful were so extreme. It was just this rule. And no one was going to talk about it. No one was going to talk about why the rule was there. But those kids were the ones that I saw that continued to make bad choices. They went the total opposite of their parents. But the parents that I saw that were the most successful, and the Anderson family is a great example, is that the parents took the time to talk about issues. They took the time to talk about why the rules were set that way, and they explained why. And my parents had a curfew for me until into college. If I lived at home, that was the curfew. But they lovingly sat me down and explained why. It didn't mean that I agreed with it, but I understood the heart behind it. And so I think that's discipleship, is the heart behind the time that you're taking with your kids. I don't even know why I thought of all that.
If you want kids to make decisions or to have the same rules or limitations on themselves as you are putting on them when they're under your roof, then yes, they have to understand the why. They have to understand the love. They have to understand the heart behind it, or they won't be making those same decisions. They'll completely go the opposite way.
Right. And so the idea is that you put the time into your kids, toddler, baby, elementary, and high school, so that they want to make the same decisions themselves, and that they have that open line of communication.
Exactly.
So let's talk about baby and toddler. Let's start right there. What are some ideas and some things that you would do? We're talking about weekly, about 5 minutes, one-on-one with that little guy.
So basically, I would just take time to quote those 10 scriptures over them. And of course, it's not really discipleship, but do some little physical exercises, just little fun things to make it nice. And you can even start reading, as a baby. You can start reading. What Jesse and Summer did is take this book, the Jesus Bible, the Storybook Bible, and just look at the pictures and talk about it.
Yeah.
You don't have to read things.
Let's show this Bible. I love this Bible. This is, I'm an artist, so I really resonate with beautiful illustrations. Can you guys see that? Isn't that cool? I just, the Bible should be beautiful, and the things that we talk about. God made this whole world, and He made nature. So I think reading the Bible should be really beautiful. Aren't those illustrations awesome? So this Bible is one, and Brooks has his own, and Sully has his own. We love this Bible. So
this is something you can use starting when they're young, and as they get older. And of course, your explanation goes a little longer and longer. Right. And gosh, by the time they're in elementary, you can actually read word for word the story.
I love it.
So something like this is a great investment because you can use it all the way along.
And how much is this Bible?
I think $9.99. Yeah, I actually have the link on that list.
So it's not a lot.
No.
Okay.
No.
So that's baby toddler. How about preschool kindergarten? That might get a little bit longer. Are you adding a little bit more time as the age goes
Sure,
up?
depending on their ability to sit down and attend to you and that kind of stuff. But start some scripture memory with them where they can start saying the scriptures. I actually started with those 10 that I quoted over them as babies. And every week we would take a new scripture and they kind of add to the group to where they could go ahead and quote 3 in a row after 3 weeks. And that was cool. I like that.
One thing I want, you can't wait to watch the replay. All right, everyone's ready to go. One thing I really want to find are some scripture memory cards. And I want to find really simple ones that kids can memorize. And our kids are really capable.
They are.
They are incredibly capable. Brooks is in this Trail Life group, which is like a Christian version of Boy Scouts. And he memorized their creed, their code. And it's so long. I had no idea he could memorize it. And he just spouts it off. And I'm not that parent that's like, put a performance on. You have an alphabet marine. Oh, very
Yes.
fun. Okay.
Awesome. I
So
wonder
those
if
are
that's
great.
where my ABC things came from. I don't know where they came from.
Maybe
but-
it is. Okay, so scripture memory cards are a great example. And then other things that you can do for the preschool kindergarten age are the Berenstain Bears.
Which are awesome.
And then pray over them.
That is something I didn't talk about. The end of every discipleship time, no matter what age they are, should be prayer. A quick prayer when they're young. And as they start getting into elementary, you can have them tell you, what would you like for me to pray for you
love
about?
that.
Because, yeah, they do have things they're facing. And this is that open communication with you. Even when they're high schoolers, we prayed at the end of every time together. So that is an essential part of your discipleship time.
Okay, you guys heard it. So pray at the end of your discipleship time. It's really good. So elementary,
Again, going through those topics
Same
that I
thing,
talked about, a
topics.
lot of those came from
so
Proverbs for
honesty,
Parenting.
generosity, telling the truth.
Faithfulness, hard work.
You're looking for
discipline.
situations with your siblings. That's something that I think is super easy to pick out. Are you ever talking about things you see in them, character qualities that are really
Definitely.
good? Okay, so it's not
Definitely.
just
Oh, no.
not just the bad. You're talking
these
about
topics
the good.
are good topics. The honesty, the faithfulness, all these things are good things that you want to point out. You want to point it out in them, and you want to point it out in their siblings.
Oh, I wish I had someone discipling me.
And if you did have a situation where they come home from school and say, this happened, you talk about, okay, how did you feel about that? What would you have done in that same situation? And why would you? Well, I learned from this that we should act this way. And that's
so
good.
good.
I mean, you don't want to bring up the bad situations.
Right.
But when they come to you with something, you need to show them the opposite side of that. Okay, how could they have been honest in that situation? How could they have shown respect for the teacher? Do you think what he did was good? Okay, why not?
That's good.
Just discussing that.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys have had this question, or maybe you have and we haven't read it, so I apologize. But where are you when you're doing this? Are you on the couch? Are you in a chair with a chair? Does that situation matter where you are?
It really doesn't.
Okay.
Now, when we were doing this at the beginning of our day, right before homeschool started, I was taking them into my bedroom. I had a little desk where I spent my quiet time, and that's where we sat.
Okay.
But it can be anywhere. But depending on what you're talking about and how old the child is, you might want privacy. But
I like that. We're cutting out. I was just trying to think about maybe going into a different room and just maybe not closing the door, but keeping it closed so that what we say is private, and the other brother or sibling or parent, if they're there for some reason.
And I know you're going to laugh when you hear this. You know all the journals I have. A lot of you that have been watching me know all the journals I have. Okay, I took out the other day my discipleship notebook where I have it marked off into the 5 kids. And I kept track of the assignments,
your kids
the
privacy.
prayer requests, what we discussed. So it's
So
kind
a
of fun to look
journal.
at. Not important.
It doesn't. You don't
But
have to.
I like it.
Okay. Gail's a journaler.
That was fun.
She's a writer. She inspires me to do that more. I've just started journaling again for me, so that's my first step, and then I'll start doing it. So weekly, set aside a space. That's good. And then the other thing we definitely want to talk about is, what if you can't remember? What if you can't remember because this is not in your routine yet? So what have we talked about? She's known for
I'm
this.
just alarms. I put alarms on my phone. If I'm trying to establish something new as far as a habit, then I will set an alarm on my phone, discipleship time, so that I can make sure I fit that in.
Would you do each kid a different day?
That's what I did because that's what worked for me. Now, depending on your schedule, I can't imagine if you had very many kids doing them in the same day, but if you just had 2, okay. Monday's our discipleship day. That's great.
I like that. But it could be a little draining if it's
It
long.
could be, and it's whatever works for you. That's
Okay.
the whole thing. I can sit
So
here
you
and tell
have
you what I
freedom.
did.
We're saying once a week.
Yeah.
Once a week discipleship, one-on-one, once a week. So you can go back to back, or you can choose a different day. I'm best in the morning, and my husband leaves for work at 7:15, so I may just do it at the end of the week and have some on Thursday and some on Friday for a little bit, just a little nugget of time.
And you're asking about daily. that's the type of thing we would do family devotions Monday through Friday. Something short at the breakfast table that my husband would lead a piece there or I would lead, but that's just something to do for everybody. But as far as their discipleship thing, especially if they're getting older and you're making an assignment in a book, okay, we're each going to read this chapter, that's great. You have a whole week.
Okay, so someone hopped on late. So discipleship is one-on-one time where you're really trying to connect and talk about the type of character, the type of person that you want that child to be. Examples from the Bible, examples from stories that you're reading together. So you'll read a book and it'll have an example of a situation. You'll talk about that together. So the idea is situations in life will happen, and if mom is there to guide mold how you want them to think about something when they're little, they're either going to learn it from their friends or they're going to learn it from their parents or their siblings. So if you're discipling your other kids, they're going to also teach their siblings, which is so great. So you're welcome for catching you up. And we've been scoping for just a little bit, so it's probably a good reminder.
The thing that's so important to understand here is you are developing a relationship so that they are coming to you first instead of going to their friends for things. And that's, to me, that's the basis of when you get into those teenage years and not everything that they want to do agrees with what you would like.
So this is the foundation of character development, relationship, one-on-one time, quality time with mom and child. And it's really easy to be, no, don't do that. I said pick up your room. I said it's time to go, get your shoes on. This is kind of what my day's like. And so this is such a good, that's why you're homeschooling. I love it. This is such a good thing, whether you're homeschooling or not, because you're stopping the commands and you're stopping that's time to go, it's time to eat, chore time, all those kind of things. That's mom mode. And this is discipleship mode.
It's also implanting into them the good character traits, good things that are happening in life. And I think that comparing and showing them this is a better way to go. This is why, what would you do in this situation? Helps them to be able to form those morals and characters traits that are going to take them in the future.
I love it. Okay, so let's talk about junior high. So that's going to be things that they're going to be confronted with some pretty big choices. Yes. Junior high is the big deal.
Yes, it begins there. And that's why you want to have a foundation already, but you also want to be able to mentor them as they're going through it, because they need to understand how to navigate this. What am I supposed to do when all my friends are doing this? That's difficult. So when we got into high school and the whole dating thing, we did books on dating.
Cool.
And that was, really eye-opening, because this is what the other kids were doing, and why do we not want to go from boyfriend to girlfriend? Why do we not want to be going steady? What's a better way to do this? So,
and think about it this way. Okay, so I've been married 13 years, and the way that I dated my husband is totally different than the way that people date now.
Oh my gosh.
So you're going to need to, as your kids get older, you have to keep up with the things that they're learning. You can't reject technology and the modern way our world is going.
That's right.
You can move with it and let it be a vehicle to connect with your kids. And, we do some things online. We have iPod time. I don't want my son doing video games, but I can't fight it. If I can control the amount of time that he can do it, I don't want to say absolutely not. You're not doing that. So keep in mind, as our kids get older, they're going to be dating a different way. They're going to be relating to the opposite sex a different way in this modern world than we're used to dating.
Exactly.
I mean, my 7-year-old sees me on Instagram and sees me on Periscope like we're doing right now, and he's thinking, well, why can't I get on Periscope? So these are things that I didn't deal with. My parents didn't deal with social media the way that kids are dealing with it now. So it's going to be so different when my kids are dating. I guess people date via text now. They start relationships. They don't even hang out. It's so much online.
And that's dangerous.
It is
very dangerous because you develop a closeness in a relationship that really does not have a substance. except in the words that are going back and forth on the phone. That's very different.
Which can be too close too soon.
Yes,
and most things that happen when you jump in too quickly, you also jump out too quickly. So that can really hurt, when you're doing so much via text. My sister is married to Gail's son, Josh, and the cousins have even had miscommunication via text.
Have they? Oh.
And it's so sad because they didn't mean that. And so much of what you're saying can't be clarified. So the technology is something we have to be aware of. Okay.
And think about the freedom in saying something on text that you would never say face to face. Now we're really in trouble in relationships, in dating relationships, where people are getting close and saying things that they did not even mean to do. So,
and that is crazy. When
long distance
through
dating,
letters,
through letters.
Chris and I,
cool.
we dated through email. I mean, we learned about each other through email, which seems so crazy now, but
that's what you were doing, was learning about each other. You weren't saying, oh man, I love this and I love you and you're so cool, and you were actually finding out about each other.
Yes. So we're in a new world, and we need to be aware of it. We don't need to be scared, but we just need to be aware that things are different. So build this discipleship time so that when those dating years come, I don't even want to think about the puberty stuff. I don't even want to think about it. My boys, I feel like already are totally oblivious to the girls, and I can kind of see them looking. So what age, I missed the question. It was like, what age?
I will tell you that you can start this at 2 and 4. I mean, my whole thing in being a mom is seeing things from a positive attitude. Now we're straying just a little bit here, but rather than don't do this, hey, let's go do this. Let's try this instead. Trying to point it in a positive way. Mom, I want this from the store, Well, that does seem like a really nice thing. Maybe we can have that next week. We'll talk about that later, rather than no, stop. I like to change things. And granted, I didn't do it all the time when I was a mom. I was busy. I had 5. I hear you. But it's just that intent of your heart. If you're trying to start seeing things from a positive standpoint, that will be helpful. And that can start.
And that's the goal. The goal, it can start at 2. That's okay. You're fine.
No.
I think I got off on the texting and the dating because there is so much to talk about. You're that way, but your husband never says yes to anything. I'm the tough one in the family. My husband's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, let's, tough love. Let's make them work for it. It's like,
so here's a phrase that you can remember. Yes, when.
Oh.
Not, no, we can't watch TV, but yes, we can after we all work together and get our house picked up.
That's good.
We can watch TV.
That's good. I love that. And yes, my son plays on his iPod. Yes, when his room's clean and it's quiet time, he has an hour.
Yes.
And if he uses it early, we cut some of that off. So yes, when.
Yes.
Oh, that's so good. So let's kind of wrap up our ideas here. When it gets into high school, we talked a little bit about high school. High school, tell me about what it was like discipling high school age kids and boys, and how sometimes that cut into your day, but that's okay.
It did. It definitely did. Especially with certain ones. Certain ones, it didn't take quite so long. But I can remember times where we were sitting having discipleship time, and I think I probably allowed 30 minutes, like it was 8 to 8:30, and then school started at 8:30. Well, if I was not done and somebody came knocking at the door and said, Mom, it's time to start school, I'd say, go ahead and do what you know you can do, because we need to finish. And it would be an hour sometimes.
Oh,
there were times it went a little past that because there were discussions which were weighty. And where there was a little bit of, stress in the discussion. And so I wanted to make sure that we were able to close things up, get back to a position where we were understanding each other, and also be able to end with prayer. So.
Now, one thing Gil said, we did a discipleship. You want that with your kids. Oh, you can do it. One thing Gil said in the discipleship dinner was there's times and seasons when you're not as close to your kids. And you feel a little further. And so that discipleship time is already set. It's consistent. And it can be a moment where you come back in.
Because sometimes you just don't want to sit down with that junior in high school. You don't want to talk about anything. You certainly don't want to talk about what you assigned last week. but it forces you and it forces them, and it is a good thing. I mean, it never ended on a bad note any time that we had discipleship. Sometimes it showed that there was more explanations needed, more time needed, but never ended on a bad note and always ended in prayer. Did your husband get on? No. My husband had discussions with the kids more often when he was having his special time every week with them. And as we look at the teenage years, he would have long discussions at night into the wee hours of the morning about things like, I want to get a tattoo. Which, of course, for a pastor of a church was like, oh, man, you know. But
which is like,
that
who
was
doesn't
really
have a
his time.
tattoo now?
Yeah.
I don't, but
things have changed.
Most people do. So it is really different. I can think back. I actually homeschool, but I can think back to some of the most close moments that I have with my mom is when she was praying with me about the things that were going on just in my life, in my world. And it might have been during school hours, but it was so special to me that she would take that time and say, what's going on? I want to be a part of it. I care about you. And to not push those things aside, because maybe they don't seem like that big of a deal, but to you, they're a big deal. And you may be 16 and this friend's not treating you well, but that's your whole world right then.
Oh my
and
gosh,
so when
absolutely.
you're 2 and when you're 4 and you're 6, your whole world are these things going on. And it may be the Terraria game, or it may be Brooks just got a bird. He had me come in there, he thought the bird was hurt, and we're looking around on the feathers, and that's their world right then. So when you take the time to disciple and talk about what's going on and asking them, I don't know if I'd ever really initiated some things like that on a weekly basis. I know I haven't done it consistently. We may talk about things, but it creates a space. And one thing that Kirby says, Gail's husband, that I love is that quality time comes from a quantity of time.
Exactly.
So if you create the space, the quality will come because you've already designated that time for that child.
And you cannot minimize whatever they're feeling or going through. I mean, if you sit and look at what a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old is going through, for you to say, oh, that's no big deal, no, you've got to sit down and show the care and concern for that, because it is as real as the things that we're going through as a mom or as a wife or whatever. And they don't care. I always say this, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So this discipleship time is showing that you care about the things that affect them, about what they're going through, and that you'll actually take those matters to prayer to the Lord.
That's so good. And think about it on the opposite end, that if we came to our kids with the problems we go through, like, I'm so frustrated that I'm behind on the dishes. That doesn't seem like a big deal. So if our kids did what we did to their issues, we don't need to minimize it. I was just telling Gail, my sink's empty and I feel like $1 million. Like, I just feel like I'm on top of the world. That's not that big of a deal. But in our world, these things weigh on us. And so that is very, very important. So if you guys have any questions or comments, please go on to Instagram, ask your questions and comments, and Gail and I will hop on and we'll answer those in the next.
And watch the replay so that you get the whole thing and get the things that were held up, the resources mentioned.
Yes.
So,
yeah, thank you all for tuning in. We really appreciate it, and we will talk to you later. Bye.
bye.
Someone's at the door.